The night she screamed, no one came to help. The flames devoured her, the silence followed, and questions echoed louder than the fire. A promising doctor was found almost dead, her body scorched and slashed, her belongings missing, and her past wrapped in confusion. Was it a suicide attempt born from emotional despair? Or was this the perfect crime disguised as self-destruction? This is the terrifying tale of Dr. Bhavna Yadav and the final days that led her from ambition to ashes. Dr. Bhavna Yadav was not just any girl from Alwar, Rajasthan. Born in 1999, she was a bright, determined young woman with dreams bigger than her hometown. After completing her MBBS from a private medical college in Rajasthan, she was preparing to take the FMG exam, hoping to practice abroad. Her life revolved around books, exams, and traveling between Delhi, Jaipur, and Hisar for preparation. She was focused until the night of April 24th, 2025, when everything changed. 2 days earlier, Bhavna had been in Delhi, but by the afternoon of April 24th she was back in Hisar, and not alone. She was with Uddeshya Yadav, a clerk at the Haryana Agricultural University, and someone she had known for years. He was more than just an acquaintance. He was someone from her past, someone her heart perhaps never let go. But that afternoon, he rushed her, severely burnt and barely conscious, to a local hospital. Knife wounds slashed her stomach. Her mobile and laptop were gone, and her mother, Gayatri, received the most horrifying call of her life. "Bhavna has been burnt," said the voice on the phone. It was Uddeshya himself calling from Hisar, but Gayatri was confused and angry. Her daughter had told her she was in Delhi for an exam. What was she doing in Hisar with a man she barely mentioned anymore? When Gayatri demanded proof, a video call showed her daughter wrapped in bandages, gasping for breath. Gayatri's world collapsed in that moment. But worse was yet to come. Bhavna's mother rushed from her school, where she worked as a principal, to Hisar, a city she barely knew. At the hospital, she saw her daughter burnt beyond recognition. Bhavna had suffered nearly 80% burns, and deep knife wounds on her stomach raised even more suspicion. The faint smell of petrol hung in the air, suggesting she had been set on fire deliberately. In a trembling voice, Bhavna whispered only one thing to her mother: "Mummy, save me. See what they've done to me." But who were they? And why did Uddeshya disappear from the hospital shortly after calling Gayatri? With no sign of him, no explanation, and no belongings of Bhavna recovered, Gayatri was left with one painful truth. Her daughter wasn't just the victim of an accident. She was the victim of something far more sinister. Gayatri didn't wait. She rushed to the SMS police station in Jaipur and filed a 0 FIR, declaring her belief that her daughter had been murdered. She described Bhavna's last known schedule: going to Delhi for exams, staying with her sister, and planning to return home on April 24th. But somehow, she ended up in a government quarter in Hisar, with a man who once proposed to marry her, a man who was now married to someone else. This wasn't just a coincidence. It felt like a setup. As the case unraveled, the timeline grew murkier. On April 23rd, Bhavna had called Uddeshya multiple times, but he ignored her. Desperate, she messaged him on WhatsApp: "I'm coming today." Then, despite his silence, she went to his government quarter that night. When the front gate was locked, she scaled the wall and rang the bell. What followed inside those closed walls would become the core of a mystery police are still struggling to solve. Their conversation grew tense. Accusations were exchanged. Emotions flared. And then, silence. Hours later, Bhavna was on fire, screaming for help. But how did that fire start? Why did Uddeshya claim he wasn't responsible, yet never called for help until hours later? And why did he run? The quarter was now a crime scene, and the police were just getting started. But what they would discover next would drag this case into even darker waters, exposing a twisted love story, a one-sided obsession, and a long trail of ignored warnings. The flames had died down, but the questions had only begun to rise. Why would a young doctor, full of ambition, set herself on fire? Or was it something far more sinister, a betrayal that turned fatal? When police began tracing the events leading to Bhavna's death, they uncovered more than just medical reports and charred remains. They stumbled upon a love story gone terribly wrong, one that had been quietly burning for years. It all began in 2018. A family wedding brought two distant relatives face to face: Bhavna, a bright pre-med student, and Uddeshya, an unemployed youth still figuring out his place in the world. What started as small talk turned into frequent chats. Affection grew. And before anyone realized it, Bhavna and Uddeshya were talking about marriage, young hearts, wild dreams, and a love that bloomed too fast. Uddeshya soon proposed, and Bhavna said yes, but their families didn't. Her parents had bigger plans for her. A career in medicine, possibly abroad. Marriage was out of the question. The proposal was rejected, and their communication started to fade. But the bond hadn't broken entirely. It merely transformed into something unspoken, buried, but not dead. While Bhavna left for the Philippines to study medicine, Uddeshya stayed behind and tried to turn his life around. He eventually landed a job as a clerk at Chaudhary Charan Singh Agricultural University in Hisar. By 2021, he had married another woman, Nikki. Life seemed to have moved on for both of them, but sometimes love doesn't listen to logic. Sometimes it returns, uninvited and unhinged. In 2023, after completing her MBBS, Bhavna returned to India and began preparing for the FMG licensing exam. She frequently traveled to Delhi for coaching and exams. But with each trip, it seemed she was getting closer to Hisar, and closer to the man she once called her future husband. According to police investigations, she often stayed near Uddeshya's quarter. Sometimes she called, sometimes she didn't. And sometimes she showed up without warning. The WhatsApp chats revealed a disturbing pattern. Bhavna was still deeply in love, or perhaps deeply obsessed. She sent messages like, "If you don't become mine, I'll kill myself." Another said, "I'll ruin your life if you try to forget me." The tone varied, pleading, romantic, angry, but the intent was constant. She wanted him back, no matter the cost. But Uddeshya had moved on. At least that's what he told the police. He claimed Bhavna's obsession was smothering him. He began ignoring her calls, blocking her numbers. Yet she kept finding new ways to reach him, sometimes even contacting his wife, Nikki. The screenshots of chats shared with the police painted a grim picture of emotional warfare. Nikki, too, confirmed that Bhavna had been messaging her, demanding she leave Udesh. On April 23rd, the day before the fire, Bhavna was supposed to be returning home after an exam in Delhi. Instead, she took a detour to Hisar. She called Uddeshya several times, but he didn't answer. Her final message was chilling in hindsight. "I'm coming today." Despite no invitation, Bhavna reached his government quarter that night. The details that followed, as recalled by Uddeshya, are haunting. She climbed over the wall, knocked on his door, and entered, tired, frustrated, and emotional. A short argument erupted. Bhavna accused him of ignoring her, and he told her to leave. But where could she go in the dead of night? Her tone turned cold. "Then I won't leave alone. I'll take you with me," she whispered. They argued again. Uddeshya claimed he went to sleep in another room, while Bhavna remained alone in the kitchen. He heard utensils clattering, then silence. And then the fire, the screams, the horror. He insisted he ran to save her, doused the flames, wrapped her in a blanket, and rushed her to the hospital. But why didn't he call for help sooner? Why were her belongings missing? Why did he vanish after dropping her off? The mystery deepened when Bhavna's mobile phone was later recovered from nearby bushes. Police began piecing together call records, messages, and CCTV footage. What they discovered was both revealing and disturbing. This wasn't just an accident or an impulsive act. It was something more layered, something planned. Meanwhile, Bhavna's family remained certain. She was murdered. They believed she had been lured into a trap. The missing laptop, the stab wounds, the smell of petrol, none of it aligned with a suicide. Yet Uddeshya's family told a completely different story. Nikki, his wife, firmly stated that Bhavna was a disturbed girl who couldn't let go. "She wanted to destroy our marriage," she said. "She used threats, blackmail, and guilt. She was obsessed." The police, stuck between two conflicting narratives, focused on the evidence: the petrol bottle found in the room, the screenshots of threatening messages, the post-mortem report showing both burns and knife injuries, and most of all, the psychological turmoil in Bhavna's recent behavior. Was she truly suicidal? Or had someone manipulated the situation to look that way? After days of evading the police, Uddeshya was finally arrested. He repeated the same story. Bhavna set herself on fire. He tried to save her. He didn't harm her. But the inconsistencies in his statement and the evidence at the scene kept the investigators unconvinced. The truth was tangled in trauma, half-told confessions, and silent screams. Now, with Bhavna gone and Uddeshya in custody, the case teetered on one crucial question. Was it love that burned, or hate disguised as heartbreak? They say time heals all wounds, but some wounds leave scars that time refuses to touch. Dr. Bhavna Yadav's body may have been cremated, but the ashes of her case still hung thick in the air, choking every conversation with suspicion, regret, and fear. Now, with her ex-lover in custody and the country watching, all eyes were on the evidence, but the closer investigators got to the truth, the further it seemed to slip away. After his arrest, Uddeshya Yadav repeated the same claim. Bhavna had set herself on fire. According to him, he didn't pour the petrol, didn't touch a knife, didn't hurt her. In fact, he insisted he tried to save her. But what man saves someone and then disappears without a trace? Police dug deeper. From the start, inconsistencies plagued his story. The petrol bottle was found inside his quarter. Burnt clothes, charred fragments of Bhavna's bag, even a half-melted SIM card, all pointed toward destruction, not despair. And then there were the knife wounds, multiple gashes on Bhavna's stomach. What kind of suicide begins with stabbing yourself and ends in flames? Post-mortem reports confirmed what Gayatri, Bhavna's mother, had feared from the beginning. Her daughter was attacked before being set ablaze. The injuries weren't random or defensive. They were deliberate. Someone wanted to silence her, permanently. Yet, Uddeshya's defense held firm. His lawyers painted Bhavna as an unstable woman obsessed with a man who had moved on. They pointed to chats where she threatened suicide, harassed Nikki, his wife, and stalked him with relentless calls from unknown numbers. She was emotionally fragile, his lawyer argued, and when her love was rejected, she snapped. It wasn't just about love, it was about ego, betrayal, a broken promise. Perhaps Bhavna couldn't accept that the man she once dreamt of marrying had married someone else. Or perhaps she never wanted him back. Perhaps she wanted justice for a relationship that had turned toxic. That's the possibility Gayatri clung to, that her daughter didn't die for love, but because she tried to fight back. Meanwhile, new evidence added fuel to the fire. Bhavna's recovered mobile phone revealed voice notes never sent, drafts of unsent messages, photos of herself with Uddeshya from earlier days. It all painted a tragic story, not of a lunatic, but of a girl stuck in a cycle of emotional abuse and manipulation. Police also examined the timing. Bhavna left her sister's home in Delhi on April 23rd, never told anyone she was going to Hisar, and didn't carry her return ticket. It appeared impulsive, or perhaps she was called there. Lured. There's still no record of whether Uddeshya invited her that day or whether she simply appeared. Neighbors in the government quarters reported hearing shouting that night around 11 p.m. No one thought to interfere. No one came forward until the fire. But the strangest detail came from Nikki's testimony. She claimed that Uddeshya had mentioned Bhavna's obsessive behavior weeks before the incident, and that he feared she might do something crazy. Why, then, didn't he report it? Why not alert the police or his university? Why, when Bhavna was burnt alive in his own home, did he disappear instead of seeking help? "My husband is innocent," she cried. Bhavna couldn't take no for an answer. But for Bhavna's family, there was no doubt. Their daughter had been betrayed, used, discarded, and then eliminated. Her mother, Gayatri's voice trembling yet firm, spoke on national news. "My daughter didn't burn herself. She was burned to be silenced." Police concluded their remand and submitted a partial charge sheet, but the case remained open. Without a clear eyewitness, without conclusive forensic proof, and with conflicting statements, the courtroom would become the final battleground for truth. Even now, the mystery lingers. Did Bhavna light that match out of heartbreak? Or did someone else douse her dreams in petrol and strike the flame? Was it madness or murder, obsession or opportunity? And if Bhavna really did want to end her life, why do the wounds on her body scream otherwise?